I'm Travis Murray with the Pinball Company, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to win your John Wick launch party. Alrighty, before we get started, let's go ahead and go over a quick broad overview of this pinball machine. It's very important to understand that this gameplay is on a Pro. It might differ a little bit if you have a premium, and it's also important to note that this is on the 0.83 code. So as of this video, that is the latest code. Anything you hear from here on out, it might change a little bit by the time you watch this, but hopefully the core concepts will still remain the same. With the John Wick rule set, the most important parts to this game currently are your jobs, your adversaries, and your enemies. Understanding how these three features work will put you well on your way to scoring pretty big points in this game. Now with jobs, it's important to note that if you are in competition mode, the jobs are tied to specific factions. Now, however, if you are on standard, that is not the case. The jobs are randomized, so keep that in mind. It's very, very important, especially watching this video, that you understand that. So if you play on standard, may God have mercy on your soul because the jobs are not tied into the factions. They are completely random. Up to this point, the three jobs that I found that have worked the best thus far are Escort the VIP, Assassination, and Gather Intel. Now, these three jobs are tied in specifically to the High Table, Roma, and the Marquis de Gramont. In an ideal situation, you will play all three of these jobs in single ball play in order to maximize the value out of that job. However, that may not always be the case depending on game conditions and what ball you're in. It may be advantageous to go ahead and stack a multi-ball with any one of those jobs. Keep in mind that once you do stack a multi-ball with any job, it does tend to become complete chaos. I have found that it is difficult to keep track of everything, so keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary. The next point of emphasis is adversaries, as you'll find these 5 inserts towards the middle of the play field. Now, the reason why these are important is because their first one can be qualified with 15 enemies defeated. And whenever you face an adversary, you do have an initial ball save, as this mode is approximately 200 seconds long starting out. My personal favorite happens to be Kirill, as I find that if you can manage the orbits and going back and forth, the deeper you get in the phases, the more significant the points become. Another strategy you can do is play 0, just ride the ramp, and then go directly into the VUC. But to be honest, I have found that all 5 modes tend to give you significant points if you just happen to play them long enough and survive long enough. Here's the thing with enemies. There's 2 camps of thought for this. You can either focus on enemies in order to qualify and progress to your adversaries, or you can just completely ignore enemies altogether and just play the game as you would play as if they're not even there. It's totally up to you, but if you are focused on enemies, keep in mind that the dance club will spawn these enemies and will put them at various shots throughout the game. However, the caveat is that they will block your shots, so you won't be able to make any progress during multi-ball or during your job phases. Another thing of note, that if your enemy is blinking, 1 shot should defeat it. If it's solid, it typically takes upwards of 2 shots in order to defeat them. And whenever you drain, that does clear the enemies out of the play field. So if you have a bunch lit up like a Christmas tree, but you drain, guess what? Once you're at your next ball, those enemies will no longer be out there on the play field. And the enemies do help build up mode values. However, I have found that as of right now, I just tend to not worry too much about that. Instead, I just take out the enemies as fast as I can in order to progress to my adversary. Now that we got that all out of the way, it's important to understand the strategies and tactics to this game. Now, my general roadmap in particular is just to focus on enemies as often as possible because I want to make progression as quickly as possible to get to my adversary, since I feel like that's where there's a lot of points at. However, if I am going to play jobs, I will go for the High Table, Roma, or the Marquis de Gramont early on, especially the Marquis de Gramont. The reason for this is it is a ramp-heavy mode. In theory, you can just combo out ramps for as long as you possibly can before deciding to cash out of the mode. And the way you cash out that job is just by simply hitting 3 ramps without an enemy in front of it, and it will light your scoop for the cash out. For your plunge, I would highly recommend to short plunge. The reason for this is you typically only have 5 seconds worth of ball save time. So if you put the ball up top, keep that in mind. If it rattles around at all, you're not going to have ball save time. And if you drain out, you're not going to have that many points. And trust me when I tell you, you do not want to drain and not have any points to show for it. Not that I know what that's like.
Really bounce it up, because if with the post being that lively, if you flip when you should not have flipped, you're going to bounce it down into the gutter.
That's right.
And then it's not going to be good.
Travis.
Yeah. That's how.
It skipped Travis's turn.
Another reason why it's important to short plunge is because you have immediate control. That ball will go into the buck. It will pop back up and come back to your right flipper. And from there, even if the ball save is out, taking a shot at the blood oath on the left-hand side, those two stand-up targets, is probably your most important shot at that current time. And the reason for this is because when you hit that enough times, it will light your outlane ball save. And this outlane ball save will last the rest of the game up until you use it. And once you do use it, in order to relight it, you have to fight an adversary. So see how this is all coming together? That's why you want to fight as many enemies as possible, because not only do you find a lot of points that way, but you'll give yourself an opportunity to relight your outlane ball save. And last but not least, bailout shots. Now, I found from the left-hand side, I always try to use the crate as much as possible for a bailout shot. This is especially important because if you do succeed in that, the ball's back under control immediately and coming back to your right flipper. Another area you could look at is the dance club. If the feeds are good coming out of the dance club, that's a good spot to park the ball, mainly because you'll start spawning more enemies across the board. And again, if you're trying to progress towards adversaries, that is an important part of this gameplay. And the final spot that I like parking the ball at is both the car and the Winston Newton ball up top. Generally, I'm looking to get easy progression towards multi-balls by doing this. Bailout shots, very important, as you can make continual progress towards various features within the game. And now that you guys understand all of that, let's get to the gameplay. All right, so now we got the game starting. Like I talked about a second ago, an important part of this is short plunging, so that way you can immediately get under control. And of course, we hear Keanu call outs. Glorious. But as I mentioned a second ago, I want to go after those blood oath targets. The reason for this is that I can light my outlane ball save as quickly as possible. Another thing worth mentioning that I did not mention before at the beginning of this, whenever you're getting into a job, all the major shots out there is what changes your job. So keep that in mind. Right here, I just started Gather Intel, which is tied into the Marquis de Gromont. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. In this mode, all you want to do, or this job, is just ride ramps. Literally, that is it. Ramp, ramp, ramp. And when you get tired of that, hit another ramp. And you just keep doing this. So it's really great because you get 2x, which if the insert's blinking faster, that signifies that you have a 2x combo opportunity. If it's just doing its normal blinking, it's just worth normal value. Now, the caveat to this is that you can also keep hitting them over and over and over again, and you'll get some time back on your overall mode or your job time. So the job starts at 60 seconds, but you'll notice if you look at the LCD screen, whenever I do complete a shot, you'll see that time just gradually just go up just a little bit. Right there, you can see. So that's very important to understand. And I also look for the crate whenever it's available. I did it just there. You hit it a couple of times, you get a job boost, which adds on, I think it was like 25, 30 seconds extra. So again, that's important because you can keep this job going, and that's what we want. Now, when you're playing this, find an angle or find a shot that you want to exploit over and over and over again. If it's the center ramp, do the center ramp. If it's the left ramp, do the left ramp. If it's the right ramp, do the right ramp. Just the thing to keep in mind is that once you want to leave this mode and you want to pull the chute and you're ready to go, you got to complete all 3 ramps without an enemy blocking the shot. This will light the left scoop. But as you can see right here, if you can dial this in, you will score some points. They'll start stacking up quick. And just while we're talking right here, we're already closing in on 80 million points. And at the same time, you'll notice I have 6 enemies. So I'm making plenty of progress towards an adversary as well. And this is without even thinking about where are the enemies. I'm just focused on hitting ramps. If an enemy happens to be in front of there, so be it. I'll just keep on trucking along with this combo. So now I'm going up the middle because now I'm thinking about, okay, I got to get out of here. I'm about ready to go. And as you see now, my left scoop is lit. to where I can cash out a certain value of the whole entire mode. I think it might be like maybe 15, 20%. Forget what it is exactly. But yeah, this is exactly what I would do during this particular job. Ramp, ramp, ramp. Not worried about multi-ball, not worried about anything else. So if you have an opportunity to get into this quickly and you're confident in your shots, it's a very good job to use. All right, we're going to cash out quick. I remember this. That was scary when that happened, but luckily we got a little bit of a grace right there to cash in. So there you go, 108 million. So at this point, you have options here. And this is kind of where the game goes to where it's pick your own adventure. You can either start hitting your car or your Winston Newton ball in order to get those multi-balls going, or you can start going after crate like I just did to try to get to your next job. Yeah, it looks like I'm all in for my next job. Now, this is a tactical error that I just did. I'm not a fan of Task Accrue. It could be good. I'm just not very familiar with it. I would much rather be in High Table or the Rescue Roma. So keep that in mind that if you're in a position to have these jobs ready, to hit a major shot to move the job to where you want it, to select to the correct faction. Now we started, I believe this is Excommunicado multi-ball. You do this by hitting those 3 gold targets, I think 3 times each, and then it'll eventually light it at the dance club there. In this, I found that, you know, the points aren't really that great as of right now. So I use this multi-ball in particular as a utility multi-ball. And what I mean by that is I won't even worry about the jackpots. I'm hunting down enemies. Because again, I want to get to my adversary. Now, another important thing to note, you'll see that the job or that the enemies are less than what they were before. However, I do have an adversary lit now. So I found that whenever a multi-ball starts, your enemy will go down on the LCD. It'll revert back to 0. However, the global enemy defeated count stays the same. So keep that in mind. Make sure you are well aware where you're at with enemies defeated. Another reason for this is because you can light an extra ball eventually. However, the extra ball, I found that sometimes it lights at 11 enemies, sometimes it's 12. And there's been a couple times it's just completely not lit. I don't know why that is, but when it does light, I think it's worth 15 million points at the left scoop. So there's point value in that as well. So there's a Wick rank as of right now, or as of the recording of this video. Doesn't mean anything yet, but I'm sure it's coming soon. So there's our Add-a-Ball. Much like Metallica, you just hit the stand-up targets by the ramps, and that will prime up a multi-ball, and instead of hitting a snakehead, you'll just hit the left scoop, and that will add a ball onto the playfield. So again, during all this, I still do have a job going on. However, I'm not focused on that. So just like we talked about, I was focused on getting to enemies, and once I realized that my adversary was lit, then I started focusing on job shots or maybe even some jackpot shots. However, like I said before, as of right now, it's the points coming through multi-ball are tough to find. You have to chop a lot of wood. I'm not saying it's impossible to do. It's just you better get your axe out as of this code. Now, I assume that possibly in the future, we could have some rebalancing done, but we'll see. So right here, I had to use my outlane ball save after nearly making a oopsie there, but we got back under control. So now we're going to kind of reset. We got our battles lit. Now I can change my adversary if I hit the far 2 left stand-up targets. That will rotate them through. Did it right there. Now we're on Kirill. That's the one I really want because that's my favorite one to play. That's the one I can score the most points out of. But your mileage may vary because I'm just going to nudge the ball to that lane. But your mileage may vary because it is completely dependent on how you handle the orbits. Some copies, the orbits will send it into the slings. Other copies I found are returning directly back to the flippers. So if your live catches are on point and the ball can get back to the flipper, might be a good mode to use. And also, if you can backhand the left ramp, that's another thing. Some copies you can, others a little bit more difficult to do. Okay, right here, I'm taking aim at it, missing it, and then I accidentally hit it. So we're going to play Cassian, which is perfectly fine. The points are decent in this. What you want to do is essentially hit blue shots, hit switches, and that will add value to your jackpot overall. Now, I have found a couple of times that the jackpot, whenever it shows that it's scored, it is a different number than what I'm actually getting rewarded. So, or awarded, whichever one you want to call it. So just keep that in mind. Just keep jamming on shots as much as you can and eventually start focusing on the purple shot. So switches and blue shots are supposed to build up the purple shot, then hit the purple shot. And they do relit again eventually. I think after you complete all of them, they relit or relight, just like you saw right there. And I forget how many shots it is to the purple, but it might be like 6, 8, 10, somewhere around there. And you get a B seeing you type bonus score, I guess is what you would call it, because it's worth around 10 million points. And I think we might see it pop here in just a few. Trying to stay under control as much as possible. This is a very combo heavy game. If you go to that right orbit, be prepared to either catch it or to send it on the fly. Okay, there's the bee seeing you right there. But be prepared to send it on the fly from the left-hand side, either to the right orbit again or to the right ramp again. All right, now we're looking at trying to do a quick bailout shot right there to get back under control. There's another bailout shot that missed. So if I sense that that ball is getting too quick for me, I will take aim at the crate because I want to put it back in that VUC. I have found it's much more safe to do that than it is to hit a stand-up target and have the ball come screaming back at you. But again, it's all dependent upon how your game setup is. Some games are set up harder than others. All right, now we're going to hit some more combos, but probably right around this time, I'm thinking about cashing out. As you can tell, the left scoop is blinking, which means I can exit this adversary battle and end it. Or I could just stay in it for another 80 plus seconds and try to survive drains and score more points. And I didn't talk about this earlier, but it is important to understand the geometry of this game. It's important to understand what you can ski jump, what you can't ski jump. As you just saw, I had a near failed ski jump right there from left to right. We got our cash out. From right to left, you could ski jump, hit the crate again, keep chopping wood that way. Another thing you can do is put the ball by the car or by the Newton ball at Winston. And if it goes against that rail, be ready to nudge it to the right-hand side to get it off that rail back to a right flipper. You do not want that ball going into the right sling because that could be dangerous, and we definitely don't want that to happen. All right, from there, we're just going to go ahead and nudge it out. On a pro, thankfully, it's a little bit easier to nudge. On the premium, that's a difficult nudge to do because sometimes that crate is down and you're going to hit off the bottom of that crate and drain out the right side. I have had that happen to me several times on the premium. All right, so at this point, we have options. I could try to relight my outlane ball save, or I could go ahead and just keep hitting my job over and over again and get to another job. And I think here in a few, I make another tactical error. So I got into, oh no, thankfully this wasn't it. It's a different video. Whew. I thought I messed up there. So this is good. I hit the center ramp mainly because I had a ball lock, and then it took me into Ruska Roma very quickly, which is tied to assassination. So assassination can be a significantly big mode. It's worth a lot of points or a massive job. The idea of this is that you want to hit a yellow flashing insert with the enemies in front of it, and once the enemies are gone and that yellow insert stays, that's your assassination target, and you want to hit that. And just keep hitting it until it unlights and it moves somewhere else. That's the whole gist of the entire job. So find a yellow shot with enemies on it. So for right now, the shot on the far right-hand side on that right ramp is where the assassination is. But I think if you don't hit it fast enough, it could go away. I forget. We'll see here in a few. Other than that, you're jamming on shots until there's just a yellow insert lit or a yellow arrow. Then you'll go for that. All right, there we go. Assassination right there. 7.6 million and climbing. So you can see why there's some significant points that can be had from this, especially if you play this like I did as a third job, because you have more time automatically starting out. So it gives you plenty of time to play around here. Now right here, I just did something that I probably wouldn't recommend too much unless you are like I was on ball 3. I started a multi-ball with it, and as you can tell, it's very difficult to tell where everything's at. And when you're playing the game, it's even more difficult to tell where everything's at because everything's flashing at the same time. And that's why I would recommend playing Assassination or jobs like that in single ball play, just so you could kind of track it a little bit more if you're needing to get as many points as possible. Unless you're on ball 3. Ball 3, you pretty much just got to go. You don't want to leave anything in the tank. So I guess that would be a good reason to go ahead and stack something with it. All right, so we're churning through enemies as well. We have another adversary lit, and I believe that's because we defeated 30 enemies. I think that's why. So as soon as I come out of this multi-ball, we'll have another enemy or another adversary lit. Okay, there's the countdown. And at this point, I'm just in wood chopping mode. Or, because of where the points are right now in this multi-ball, there's an argument that can be made to drain on purpose whenever you have a ball that's trapped up on the right-hand side, just so you could have a clean shot to start an adversary and not have anything crazy happen like a double drain that just ends your game at that point. So that's kind of another little nuance risk-reward meta that happens within pinball, is deciding when to strategically drain and when to keep playing. And as you can tell, that's a triple jackpot right there worth $750,000. In an actual competition, I probably need to seriously think about draining a ball on purpose right here, just so I can start an adversary battle, because I may be potentially leaving 50 to 150 million points on the table if I double drain at any point right here. All because I'm wanting to grind out 150,000 points or grind out 500,000 to million point jackpots. So again, when you're playing competitive pinball, that's one of the things that you got to think about. How worth it is it for me to do something that has risk? That's the most important concept that you can understand if you're wanting to get better at competitive pinball, is risk reward. Knowing when to throttle down and gas and when to let up off the gas and pivot and do something different. And it looks like right here, I am not willing to let go of that ball. Travis, you should probably drain right here. You're playing with your food too much. I gotta talk to my future self. Oh, now I'm doing it up and over. I'm gonna criticize myself for the rest of this. I don't know why I kept going. I really don't. I guess I just got too excited. I thought, yeah, I can make this work. I could score some points here. So while I mess around right here, which I'm sure I'm about to dump out the ball any second, another thing you can do is you can also hit the crate and have the ball come back like we talked about. Be sure and keep moving your lanes over. It says Baba Yaga up top, so on the out lanes and in lanes. If you spell Baba, that gives you +1x bonus. If you spell Yaga, as of right now, that gives you 1,000,000 points, which is lights out. That in the future, I believe that's supposed to be a playfield multiplier or a shot multiplier, but as of right now, it gives you 1,000,000 points. So another way to scrounge out some points. All right, now we're playing Vigo. Vigo's interesting. It's a bash mode that you can do. You hit the car or the Continental, the Newton ball right there, and it spawns another shot while giving you progress towards that adversary battle. So you see the yellow shot spawning, that will give me further progress. I think it's approximately 12 shots to get out of it, and then you'll be done. Or I could hit the 2 left stand-up targets at the oath marker or blood oath marker, and that would light my exit on the left scoop. So there's lights out available right there, 1,000,000 points. That's what I talked about just a second ago. And this is where, if you're in this situation, you very much want to be paying attention to how many points you need, because at any given time, it may be the correct move to go ahead and try to exit out of an adversary battle. Because again, you get a percentage of the value of all the jackpots or all the progress that you've made throughout that adversary battle. So very situational dependent. There's the bee seeing you. And whenever I do play this, I think I might be trying to exit now. So here comes my exit right here. I'm trying to hit that left side. Getting a bash award. I think I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything right now and see what I opt to do at this point. All right, there's my exit right there. Got a rebound on it, but as you can tell, my left scoop is now lit. If I hit that, I will get a percentage amount of points from my entire battle. So an easy way to do that is go to the crate and then try to hit on the fly. The reason why I did that on this copy, I cannot post pass. And I haven't really found too many copies where you can post pass. And there's our exit right there. So if you can't post pass, use the ramp, use the buck, use something else to get the ball back over to the flipper that you want the ball on. All right, we got our out lane ball save. We're feeling good. We're going to light Winston. And whenever you light your locks right here, if you look up top, you can see a light flashing. You also see the 3 red, I guess, plastic little figures or whatever you want to call them on the far back. All that gives you indication of what your lock progress is. Okay, here's my accident I remembered. I did not want to get into this. When you're in the Bowery King for competition, it's not my favorite mode, or my favorite job, but every single shot is lit. And to my knowledge, I believe you have to complete each shot twice in order to get out of the job. However, because the enemy's blocked, that means you're going to have a whole lot of shots to do. So if you happen to get into the Bowery during competition, I would try to bring a multi-ball into it. But like I said, as of right now, these jobs, as of current code, don't have any type of, I guess, perk to winning or to defeating them outside of just getting progress in the game. All right, so we took our multi-ball at the center ramp. And I believe that's the deconsecrated multi-ball via the Continental or Winston. And the way that you get to this is you got to hit that noon ball enough to spell Winston. It lights lock, center ramp, and then you got to hit the letters again or hit that ball or that noon ball again to spell out the Winston letters. And then you just keep repeating that process until you have your 3rd ball locked. Okay, picked up an extra ball there. I think that might have lit because of how many jobs we had done up until that point. I think. Don't quote me on that though. Anyhow, so I find that this multi-ball works out pretty decent. If you hit some shots and start jamming along, you can build it up to over 1 million points for each jackpot, which can be valuable. So again, if you're ready to grind it out, get that axe out, there's some progress to be made here. And you'll see the Winston letter flashing up there. And if I hit that, that will give me some points as well. So it's kind of like, it reminds me kind of a Mummy off Iron Maiden, Mummy multi-ball. For those scoring at home that know what I'm talking about. All right, trying to get under control. I'm sure I'm trying to figure out where I'm at right now in the game. As the Bowery Night Watch is still running, I still got my outlane ball save. And that's another thing you can do right there that I just did. You can, if you're capable of doing little micro flips, you can definitely do what you would do on Congo, to where you keep a ball trapped up on the left-hand side. You do a little micro flip whenever a ball comes from a ramp. Oh, save the ball right there. Close. But you can do that as well, little micro flips. And like you just saw right there, this game drains so fast. Be ready for that ball to pop back up quickly. I have had the ball pop back up from both the right-hand side and straight down the middle drains. So do not leave the game until your bonus is counting down. I don't recall a game in recent memory to where I've had that happen as often as this game on multiple models as well. So it's not just tied in to this particular pro. So it's little instances like that that you can just keep a ball alive longer, or keeping your multi-ball longer. So again, we're trying to win a launch party here. So every single point matters. It completely matters. All right, we're out of that. So felt like I played that a long time, got 7 million out of it. That's why I tend to use these multi-balls as utility multi-balls, just to grind out enemies to get to my adversaries. As of 0.83 code, that's what I'm personally doing. I'm sure it will evolve and change as the code matures and, you know, more updates come out soon.
What have you done?
And that's the other thing to look out for right there. Precisely that. The half ramps up the middle. Make sure if you are going to take on the fly shots from your right flipper, make sure that your copy can make that ramp. Some can, some can't. It's a very early shot. Keep that in mind as well. All right, 483. And there you have it. There's one way you could play this John Wick pinball machine in order to win your launch party. However, there are a multitude of ways to approach it. There's definitely different strategies that are starting to take hold. If you have a different strategy, let me know down below in the comments. But there you have it. Good luck at your John Wick launch party. I hope you guys absolutely destroy it. And I hope everybody out there wins all the plaques galore. Until next time, I'll see you guys on the next one.